You've been climbing for a while, you've hit a plateau, now it's 2024, it's time to level up your climbing. Hey everyone, I'm Maddie. Today we're going through 5 actionable changes you can make this year to take your climbing to the next level. These tips I'm about to give you are very basic. They're almost surprisingly basic because I'm not a big fan of fancy, complicated training programs or protocols that people often prescribe. Instead, I find that the most important thing you can do is be consistent. Which leads us into our very first point, which is consistency is the key. I find that a lot of people underestimate how long it really takes to get really good at something, such as rock climbing. To get to Zach and my level in rock climbing, all we really did was show up day after day, month after month, year after year. When you don't want to go to the gym, you have to show up. When you have every excuse, every reason not to go to the gym, show up anyway. You have to just go to the gym consistently in order to see progress in climbing. Establishing a good routine, sticking to it, no matter whether it's the most optimal routine or the most efficient routine or the best routine, doesn't matter. As long as you stick to it, you will see progress. But if you start taking breaks here and there, if you start taking a week off here or a month off there, maybe don't go to the gym because you don't feel like it today, and you start breaking up that consistent routine, that's when you're going to see slower progress. Really, the only thing that distinguished me from the people I was climbing with when I first started was that I was more consistent. I showed up every time. I tried my best. Maybe some sessions weren't as good as others, but I got better inch by inch. So set the schedule. Figure out when you can go to the gym. Maybe coordinate with someone so that you're more accountable to them. And of course, there are reasons not to go to the gym. There are reasons to take a rest day when you need one, or take some time off when school or work is getting a little bit more busy. But as long as you default back to your routine and you stay consistent over time, that's when you're going to see real progress this year. So now that we've laid the bedrock of how to really improve at rock climbing, the consistency, let's move on to our second tip, climb more. Might seem a little bit obvious. It's a little bit more than just really climbing. At higher levels, pro climbers tend to supplement their climbing with hangboarding, weights, calisthenics, flexibility, all that sort of stuff. There is a subset of pro climbers who really just climb. In the end, it is not bad advice to say just climb and you will get better. Spending more time at the gym will increase your exposure to different moves, different climbs. It'll get your fingers stronger faster because you're constantly working them and tiring out your tendons and building endurance and building the exact muscles you need in order to climb better. And although Zach and I do supplement our climbing training with other types of off-the-wall exercises, we still do spend as much time climbing as possible and try to maximize our time when we're at the gym. For example, you'll notice that sometimes Zach, when he's trying a new boulder, will, try the first few moves, maybe he'll fall, and instead of sitting down and then trying it again from the start, he will actually jump back on the wall and start from the move after where he fell and just try to do the rest of the boulder, so that when he does go back to the first move and tries it and eventually gets it, he will now know how to do the rest of the boulder so he can get that send faster and move on to a new boulder. He does this all the time because he values spending more time on the wall. For us, we actually do 2 sessions a day, typically at different gyms, in order to really maximize the amount of climbs that we're exposed to. But for people who have other commitments, it's not so easy as just going to 2 gyms in one day and spending 2 hours at each of the gyms and then doing it again the next day. Not everyone has that amount of time. Not everyone is a professional climber. So in order to maximize the time you are at the gym, try to climb as many different boulders as possible. Try to get on boulders maybe you've been avoiding, moves that you're not familiar with and are uncomfortable trying. Do them anyway. I would recommend spending 1 extra day at the gym than you currently have been in the past. I would recommend this year spending an extra day at the gym every week. All of a sudden you have 4 extra days of climbing per month. That is 4 extra days to try different boulders, try to send your projects faster, and ultimately speed up the time it takes for you to get really good at rock climbing. All right, so you've gotten to this point where you're consistent. You go to the gym, you've added an extra day to your program. Now it's time to add a little bit of strength and conditioning. Now, like I said, it is possible to just get really good at rock climbing by rock climbing. But of course, we want to go there faster. In my opinion, it doesn't hurt to add a little bit of off-the-wall strength and conditioning. If you're just starting out with off-the-wall training for climbing, I would recommend just sticking to the basics. In the weight room, I would do 3 exercises: weighted pull-ups, dips, and core. In terms of hangboarding, I would recommend doing it 1 time a week if you have been climbing for at least a year. If you've been climbing for less than a year, just keep climbing because your tendons will get stronger just doing that. it's at the 1 to 2 year mark where you can benefit from hangboarding a little bit more. With hangboarding too, it is important also to be very careful when you're hangboarding. It is easy to get injured if you go too hard, too fast, you use too small a rung, to push it a little bit too much before you're ready. So I would recommend doing 5-second hangs 5 times with 2 minutes between each set. Now in terms of weight, it's hard to say how much you can add to your hangboarding routine. If you've been climbing for a while, maybe you can add a few pounds, 10 or 20 pounds on a bigger rung. If you're just starting out, it's your first time hangboarding, absolutely go body weight and use one of the biggest rungs on your local hangboard. The golden rule I have when I'm hangboarding is you want to go heavier before you go smaller. So what that means is you're going to add more weight to your hang on a big rung before you decide to downsize your rung to a smaller edge. This is just an injury prevention tool, but it is something I still follow to this day, and I've been climbing for over 15 years. When it comes to weighted pull-ups and dips, I would stick to a strength building rep range. 3 to 6 reps, 3 sets, and 5 minutes between each set. With these ones, you're gonna wanna be pushing as hard as you can so that you can just barely do the 3 to 6 rep range. For weighted pull-ups, that means working as hard as you can to get those 6 reps, whether that means having a band, doing just body weight, or adding a little bit of weight. And the same goes for dips. For core, check out this 6-minute core routine workout video we made that can help you get started with your own core routine. But of course, the bedrock of all of this is consistency. Off-the-wall training is a little bit more boring than climbing. So you don't want to do it for nothing. In order for this to work, you want to keep showing up to the gym and do it once a week at minimum. Tip number 4 is to watch climbing. Pretty simple. That means watching World Cups, watching competitions locally or on YouTube, and watch people at your local gym. Watching people who are a little bit better than you at rock climbing, or even watching people who are a little better than you at climbing, or even the same level, can help you understand climbing a lot better. You can see their beta, you can see the way they move on the wall, and you can also be motivated by them. Climbing is a great sport because most of the time, people at your gym are very happy to talk to you and talk about beta and help you become a better climber. So if you see someone projecting a hard route, try talking to them. Ask about their beta, see if you can climb with them. Because even just being in their presence and watching them and trying the same moves as them and seeing how they do them differently can really help you skyrocket your climbing ability. Climbing is also unique because it's about 50% mental, 50% physical. You need to know how to do the climbs, but you also need to be able to do the climbs. Learning beta and watching competitions, World Cups, other climbers can really help you figure out boulders a lot better. At the end of every season, I take an entire month off, and during that time, I don't do any climbing. So this past year, I decided to watch more climbing during my rest month. And when I got back, instead of being slow and rusty and not able to decipher moves as well, I was sharp because I was so used to figuring out beta and watching climbing, and it was almost like I never got off the wall during that month. And that just goes to show the power of watching climbing. And one of the best ways to learn about beta is to subscribe to Richardson's Climbing. Tip number 5 is to visit new gyms. This is something people often overlook, but is actually quite helpful when it comes to learning new moves and further expanding your repertoire. Going to new gyms has new holds, new setters, and new people. And that all makes new boulders. Boulders you've never seen before. Some moves you may have never seen before. And this just brings new challenges for you. New ways for you to figure out boulders and bring your new skills back to your home gym. In terms of how you should go about doing this, there is a spectrum. Zach and I, on one hand, really like to go to as many gyms as possible. We don't really have a home gym. So we're going to at least 2 new gyms a day, and we're doing that 4 or 5 times a week. Then on the other side, there are people who don't go to new gyms at all, and they're a little bit limited by the creativity that their setters have and the holds that their gym has. So you want to be somewhere in the middle. I would recommend, just to start, visiting a new gym every other week. So that's about twice a month. Not only will it expose you to new boulders and moves, but it is actually a lot of fun. Going to new gyms is a really cool experience that Zach and I have been very fortunate to have had these past 2 years. Zach and I have collectively been to over 116 gyms during our climbing career. And I can say from experience, going to new gyms really helps you keep sharp and get ready for anything a setter could throw at you. So start 2024 off right. Switch up your routine, try some new things, get consistent, and level up your climbing.